From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
All right. Dale Carter's America. We are at Funhouse Pizza in Lee's Summit. I am Dale Carter. He is Kurt Wheeler. And thank you all so much for coming out. We really appreciate you. We do. What do you think?
It's great. Great turnout. Thanks, everybody.
You got your haircut for this.
Yep, just for this.
What do you think? Kurt looks good? I mean, I got my haircut too. Kurt looks good?
All right. I'm a happily married man, people. Come on.
So I know some of you have been with the podcast for a long time. I recognize Lisa and Ed here. Other people who have been here with the podcast for a long time. This has been a 5.5-year journey of seeking the truth is what we've been doing, looking for common sense answers. You've got little handouts from me there. It's going to say I'm not a politician. I'm just a guy looking for common sense solutions to things. And clearly we have a lot of things that we need to work on in Jackson County. So the podcast and the campaign are kind of intertwined. We're talking about the campaign quite a bit on the podcast and will through the November election. I am blessed at this point that we don't have an August primary, so we can scoot right past that and get to the general election, which we'll talk about here. I want to do a shout out to the sponsors who make this podcast happen. Some of them are here with us, and we start with Jim Dingman, our host tonight, who brought us all this pizza. Big shout out for Jim Dingman. Jim Dingman's a great American, Marine Corps veteran and all that, and we appreciate his service. In fact, going into Memorial Day weekend, any of you who serve this great country, we give you a big round of applause too for serving our country and remembering those who made the ultimate sacrifice to keep us free. So give our veterans and especially those Gold Star families a big round of applause, please. He could not be here tonight because his granddaughter is graduating from high school down in Texas, but Bob Watson is my State Farm agent. He's been my State Farm agent for 31 years. He's been a State Farm agent for over 50 years in Blue Springs, kind of the gold standard for State Farm. Like a good neighbor, Bob Watson is there. Get a rate quote from Bob and, combine your auto and your home insurance and you'll save even more. In the back of the room is my dear friend Mark Muller from Max Motors. The Twin Shooters, maxmotors.com. And I'd love for you to buy a vehicle from Max, but Mark will tell you if you don't buy from him, at least buy American. And we have a success story here in the room because Lisa Schifferdecker bought a vehicle from Max Motors. How about that? The podcast works. We put people together and we make really good things happen. But check out maxmotors.com. He wants to be the Amazon. We've all been through the car buying experience and we hate it, right? He's the guy who says, go to maxmotors.com, find the American-made vehicle you want, and they'll drive it right to your front door and do the deal at your house. So take him up on that, all right?
What did you get? A what?
Ford Explorer.
Classic. Yeah.
A very cool shade of blue. What was the shade of blue you got? Vapor blue.
Wow.
Nice.
It's not just blue anymore. It has to be more exciting. Vapor blue.
So I don't think Shane and Herb are here from Clay Como Shooters. Have you seen them? Yeah. But they're another one of our sponsors. And obviously, with the liberal interpretation now of the Stand Your Ground law in Kansas City, God knows you better arm yourself and protect yourself at home. And Clay Como Shooters will get that done for you. Shane and Herb, they're on 69 Highway in Clay Como. They'll find you the right weapon to defend yourself. By the way, big shout out to a couple of officers from Lee's Summit Police Department are with us tonight, keeping us safe. Thank you very much for doing that. Appreciate all of our first responders, as you'll hear as we get into the podcast a little bit. I thought Kirk Doris might be here tonight. I haven't seen him yet. But Kirk, any of you who are approaching 65 or you've got somebody in your family who's 65, Kirk Doris is a guy you need on speed dial because his company is MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. He takes the complex Medicare, which it comes from the federal government, so why would it be simple? And he makes it simple and finds you the right part, the right plan, and the supplement that you're going to need. And their website is MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. Michael Schroer is in the front row, Remax Elite in Lee's Summit. That's the guy when you're thinking about selling your house or buying your next house or buying the bigger house or maybe when the kids leave, the smaller house or a piece of land that you want to build on. He is the guy. In fact, we just put up on the podcast page a piece of land that he's got that's going to come available. And what got me at the very beginning was no restrictions. All right. But we're not going to put a battery plant there, right? We'll get into that a little bit later on, too. Yeah. Remax Elite and Lease Summit, Michael Schroer is with us. Austin Watterson, I didn't see him, but Austin comes to this thing quite a bit. Austin runs Royal Roofing and Solar, and obviously we've had a lot of storms this spring. He's got Tamco Hail Guard, and that's making a big difference for houses in our neck of the woods where hailstorms are a big deal. So check him out at roofedbyroyal.com. They did the roof on our house, and we love Austin and his entire family. And lastly, he couldn't be here tonight because he's a little under the weather. That's Tim Porter. He runs the Christian Brothers Automotive in Independence. It's the one on 40 Highway just to the east of 470, 291. Man, if you're going to get a car, like you just got a brand new one, take care of it. We're keeping those vehicles a lot longer now, so get that oil change, get those tires rotated, find somebody you trust, and the Christian-based folks at Christian Brothers Automotive are the people I trust with my vehicles. Tim has taken a couple of my kids under his wing over the years and taught them how to work on cars, and just a really great rock of a man. Christian Brothers Automotive in Independence. So that gets us through the sponsors. We thank them because without them, we couldn't do the podcast, and I couldn't get the word out, got the campaign going, so it all ties together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tremendous people.
Yeah. Oh, he'll do his Trump tonight, too. So look for that. Anything you want to say before I get rolling? Or
Nope.
All right. Just going to sit there and look pretty?
That's the idea.
Yeah. When you check out the podcast, you're going to find that as I'm getting older, he calls me the boomer, right? And he's the young guy. And I'll ask him, hey, have you ever heard of this TV show? No, Dale. I told you, I don't know about that TV show. So there you go.
It's true.
We're definitely the generation gap here. So we've got a lot of guests here tonight. Many of them have been on this podcast in the past. Some of my new friends will be on the podcast in the future because we're running as a team for Jackson County Legislature. We have to flip the script in Kansas City. We're Eastern Jackson County, and we are completely ignored in downtown Kansas City, and we have more people out here than they have there. So at some point, we got to flip the script. And some of those people are here tonight. Tony Miller is somewhere. There's Tony. Tony's in the back. Tony is running in District 3, right? And he's got a primary. Scott Qualls was here earlier. I don't know if Scott is still here, but they're both really good guys. I like them a lot, and it's too bad that they're running against each other, but they are. Whichever one of them comes out of that race is going to be an upgrade, because one thing I know for sure is they'll stay awake during the meetings. And the guy who's in there now has a little bit of an issue with that. Lonnie McDonald is back here, District 4. He's running. He's going to be a great upgrade. Lance Pollard is here somewhere. He is running in, I get him confused. It's District 1, right? There. District 1 at large? Or 3? He's running in one of the at-large districts. All right. Yeah. Alan Rolfing is here somewhere, too. He is running for Jackson County Executive, and he is the only Republican running. So we'd be blessed to have him there as well. I think that covers all of the legislature candidates who are here. We have former state reps Jeff Coleman and Dan Stacy are here. Are they? Yeah, I see Dan back there. Yeah, and I know Jeff is here as well. There's Jeff.
He's got till the end of the year.
You're still in there?
Yeah.
Your boy Cress told me you're a former rep. I don't know, man. I'll listen to him because Cress is running my campaign. And some other folks. Becky Nace is here, former Kansas City council person. And she is running the effort to save Kauffman Stadium. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but by God, she's in there trying to keep them where they are because it's one of the best stadiums in Major League Baseball, and why they'd want to give that up and squeeze something in around Crown Center. We've had that conversation before. Greg Nauman is here. Greg's somewhere. Greg is dealing with an issue in Sibley, where we had a town hall this week talking about the battery plant that they want to put right next to the Missouri River. What could possibly go wrong there? I don't know. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So we have a lot of friends here, a lot of guests. So settle in. It's going to be fun. Now, most of you who are gathered here kind of know me from the podcast. You know me from the morning show at KFKF. 16 years the stadium voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. Before that, I was the radio play-by-play guy for Blue Springs and Blue Springs South High School football. I'm back doing that again, which is something that I love to do. And some of you know me from my service on the Blue Springs City Council. So this is not my first rodeo in politics. 6 years ago, when I lost the mayor's race in Blue Springs, I thought I was completely done with politics, and I got to sit on the sideline and just talk about it. And I don't know, maybe I've been dropped on my head, but my wife would say that's probably true. But here we go again. We're doing something to make a difference. 4 years ago on the podcast, we had Teresa Cass-Galvin on. She was running against Frank for county executive. And she and I were talking after we did the podcast, and I told her, I'm kind of kicking the tires on the legislature. And she said, you really should do it. And she was the one who kind of encouraged me to do it. So the bug bit me again. So here we are. I have a lot of heroes in politics and history. My background is political science and history from college. And so I'm going to quote some people. Teddy Roosevelt's one of my favorite. He famously wrote about the man in the arena. Okay, I can talk about what the right thing to do is, but until I climb into the arena, I can't change anything. I'm truly worried about our county, truly worried about it. I've called it home for 31 years, and for me, fight or flight kicked in. Now, the first flight instinct I had was, to hell with all of this, we're going to sell the house and we're going to move to Cass County and we're going to get out of this, because it's just too messed up, we can't fix it. Okay. Flight might also mean setting up our own county. How many of these podcast episodes did we do talking about Truman County, which we came up with, which was kind of funny because it came back full circle, right?
Yep.
And then people were like, hey, have you heard about Truman County? I'm like, well, I think we started that. So it came back to us. I've advocated that. Jeff Coleman and I have had that conversation. In fact, when the legislature once again put that silly ordinance on saying that they wanted to take down the Andrew Jackson statues, even though we voted to keep the Andrew Jackson statues, I called Jeff and I said, I'm done. Can we pick up and take the eastern suburbs and form our own county? He says, I'm already working on that. So he's working on that. Mike Steinmeier's working on that. But that's not just flight, that's a fight. And that would take a long time to get done. So I'm in the fight from the inside to try and make a difference. The town hall in Sibley we were talking about, there was a man there who really spoke to me because he said in a disgusted manner, he said, Kansas City doesn't care about us at all. They don't care. Hazardous battery facility? Put it out in Sibley. We don't care. And he's probably right? I have asked the question, and I would ask you, and maybe you've got an answer. I haven't had a really good answer on stuff like this yet. What is the benefit to the eastern suburbs being attached to Kansas City? Is there any? They're not doing anything for us. I'm confident we could govern ourselves, that we could set up our own county and it would be very successful and we would not have the problems that they have. But that's not just flight, that's a fight, and it would take a very long time to get there. The other fight is to get in there, in the arena, and try to make things better for my friends and neighbors in Northeast Jackson County. I have ideas, and we're going to explore some of those tonight. I am proud that the firefighters from 3133, Matt Roach, is he here? Matt's a very strong supporter. They have backed me since my first run for city council back in 2010, and they're still with me. You're in 3133, right? Yeah, thank you very much for your support. I appreciate that. As the stepson of a police officer, I was absolutely thrilled to get the endorsement of FOP Lodge 50. I appreciate that. Paul Brooks is the president of FOP Lodge 50. And does that cover Lee's Summit? It does. So thank you very much for your endorsement. I was asked to screen with the AFL-CIO in Kansas City. Their questionnaire that I filled out, a little problematic for some of my beliefs and what I've talked about on the podcast. So when I've talked about things, I can't run away from it, right? Tony Miller was very helpful because he speaks AFL-CIO. He's a recovering Democrat, by the way. So, but he's on the light side now, so we're glad to have him with us. But seriously, I sat down with those folks, and we had a really honest discussion, and ultimately, they're going to endorse me as well. They have. I was shocked. So I'm going to talk to anybody and work with anyone to find solutions for the things that we're talking about. Another one of my heroes was JFK. And he said this: let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democrat answer, but the right answer. And frankly, in this crazy world, I really think JFK at this point would have been a Republican. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Our county, I think we know this. Everybody here from Jackson County? Most of you are from Jackson County, right? The county's broken. I don't think it's fatally broken. If I thought it was fatally broken, I wouldn't be doing this. Correct steps have been taken. Frank's gone. For all of you who helped with the Recall Frank White effort, give yourselves a big round of applause because that was the first stumbling block and nobody thought it could be done. The unelected assessor is gone. And soon we're going to have an elected, accountable assessor. You can thank Carolyn Caton for pushing that through at the state level. So that's going to be a good thing moving forward for Jackson County because right now we have no accountability in the assessment process. What do we do moving forward about insane assessments leading to insane tax bills? The county's biggest responsibility, if you think about it, is to get this right. That's their job. And I don't know about you, but for many, many years, I just kind of thought of the county as kind of like this, benign entity out there. Yeah, maybe they weren't all buttoned up. Maybe it took them 5 years to figure out that I moved from one house in Blue Springs to another house in Blue Springs, even though I called them every year and said, hey, I've moved. You can send the tax bill over here. That was the county. But then this whole assessment thing occurred, and it shined a bright light on the problems in the county. I am convinced, with the help of some of the people in this room who I've introduced, we have some smart people in this room, we can solve this problem. The worst thing that we can have happen in this county is empty houses and empty businesses. It doesn't do anybody any good. So let's find a reasonable way to fix this problem that we didn't create and move forward. The county portion of your property tax, if you've ever looked at it, it's relatively small. I mean, the biggest portion of the tax bill is what? The school district, right? And then the fire districts, and then it goes on down from there. But everybody who has property in the county pays that smaller amount. Mine is 6%. I don't know if that's consistent. Becky, do you know? Across the board, is that consistent? 6% goes to your property. Okay, goes to the county. I'd like to know for what, right? The county budget is over $500 million for Jackson County. And most of Jackson County is made up by cities. There are 18 cities in Jackson County. So you're talking about the unincorporated parts of Jackson County. What in the world are they spending over $500 million on? That's what I want to get an audit going for. Let's find out where those dollars are going, see where we can cut, make sure the eastern side of the county is getting its fair share. We have roads all over the place. I saw something from the Mike Todd, the former mayor of Grain Valley. He was showing aerial shots of where they had fixed roads, where it butts up to county roads that are a disaster. Why is the county not fixing roads? When I was on city council in Blue Springs, we have 3 districts for city council in Blue Springs, and the overlay program for the roads is split evenly between the 3 districts. Why can't that happen at the county level? Why can't they take their overlay program and say, okay, we're going to use it judiciously? Well, here's the problem. 75% of the government is made up of Democrats, even though Eastern Jackson County has more than 50% of the population. That's a problem, and we need to get that done. My read of the charter and seeing what happens when a guy like Frank White is in charge shows a disturbing lack of checks and balances. We all know what checks and balances are. They're at every level of government except Jackson County. I mean, we want to have a no kings rally. The closest thing we have to a king is the executive of Jackson County. I mean, it's okay when you got a smart guy like Phil Lavoda in there. Quite frankly, I worked well with Mike Sanders before. But when you've got somebody intractable in there like Frank White, it shows that there's a problem. The legislature has to have a check and balance with the executive, and I think we're going to be able to do that. We're going to dig in and find a way to do it. At this point, the math is pretty simple. Of the 9 seats on the legislature right now, Republicans hold 2. 7-2. We lose, right? We're losing Sean Smith. Sean was here earlier. I don't know if Sean's here or not. But Sean has done a fantastic job as a Lone Ranger on the Jackson County legislature. But we're going to lose him. We're losing Sean Smith, so this could get worse. Lee Summit, as you know, is suddenly purple. Do you know who Bill Haley is? Bill Haley is on the Lee Summit School District. He could not be here tonight. Marlene was going to be here, his wife. I don't know if Marlene, you back there? Okay, good. Bill Haley's a good man. We got to get him elected to the Jackson County legislature just to not lose ground from Sean Smith. All right? I'm running to replace Jeannie Lauer. Jeannie is the other quote-unquote Republican. I've known Jeannie for a very long time. Jeannie is the one who convinced me to get into politics the first time. She's kind of a mentor to me, but she is the classic sense of a rhino. In fact, the Democrats like her so much, they didn't run anybody against her last time. They're running somebody against me, so they must see me as a little bit of a threat. I don't know. So, yeah, she was unopposed last time she ran, and she supported Frank White all the way to the end. I mean, when I talked to Jeannie the night before the election, she said, I think he's going to pull this out. He lost with 85% of the vote. That tells you somebody who is out of touch with what's going on. So I want you to imagine for a second, if you live in Jackson County, a world where Bill Haley doesn't win, I lose to the very liberal Antoine Jennings, who's running against me in District 5. We both lose. We run the risk of a 9-0 Democrat legislature with a Democrat executive. We're screwed at that point. We might as well pack up the hillbilly van and put up the Truman flag, because that's the only way we're going to get out of this. Because if all of the power is, if 100% of the power is concentrated in Kansas City, we'll never get any help whatsoever. So we might as well separate at that point. The better scenario, the positive, the glass half full scenario is I win. Yes? Yes. All right. Bill Haley wins, right? Yeah. We get Scott Qualls or Tony Miller in District 3. I like them both. Confident both, like I said, can stay awake in the meetings. Lonnie McDonald, who has Shelties, which makes him the perfect candidate, because Shelties, as you know, are the perfect dog. We'll get Lonnie going in District 4. So just like that, we'd get 4 seats, and the math gets a little closer to even. And then we've got folks running in the at-large seats like Lance Pollard, Grace Cabrera. We turn out our vote, and we win, and we get a majority on that legislature. It can happen, but we've got to turn out our vote, and that's going to be up to a lot of you. We're going to run together as a team. When I go door to door, I'm not just going to talk about me. I'm going to talk about Lance, because you can vote for Lance everywhere in the city. That's how the at-large seats work. They are in 3 different districts, but they're elected by the entire county. So in my district, it's going to be me, and I want to get Lance in there too, because Lance is a really good guy. He's going to be on our podcast before you know it. My team is committed to door knocking to get out the vote in District 5 for me and the 3 at-large seats. And our candidate for county executive is Alan Rolfing, and Alan is here somewhere. We're going to get Alan on the podcast down the road too. So we're going to need voters to make that happen. We got to knock doors. We got to do all that stuff. So if you missed it in the other room over here, there's a place you can sign up if you want to help our campaign. We're going to marshal some volunteers. Cress Cambers is running the campaign back there. We're going to go out. We're going to knock doors. We're going to spread the message. Everybody I talk to tells me, you got this in the bag. You got this in the bag. The last time I bought that line of BS, it was a 3-way race for city council, and Galen Erickson, who was everybody's favorite retired veterinarian, and he's John Patterson's uncle, all he did was put out a direct mail piece with him in a lab coat holding a dog, and he beat me by 99 votes. So I take nothing for granted. We're going to work our ass off to make this happen. All right. Special thanks to my team. I mentioned Cress Camber's back there. Dakota Worrell is somewhere back there. There's Dakota. Rhonda Ivy is with us. She's going to be our volunteer coordinator. Karen Judici. Did I say it right? All right. Karen is Jeannie's admin, right? Is that the right term? Legislative aide. And she really wants to be my legislative aide. So it behooves her that I win. So she's on the team. All right? Whatever it takes. Yeah. Jennifer Bryan up here. Jennifer's a longtime dear friend, and she's going to help us out as well. She usually does security when I don't have Lee Summit cops here. But, don't mess with Jennifer. And speaking of Jennifer, my lovely wife Jennifer is in the back. She is the chairman of the board. For the love of everything holy, if you went to KU, please don't tell her. All right? There is a restraining order that is in effect to keep her out of Lawrence, Kansas. She is going to violate that order on September 11th when the Tigers play the Jayhawks in Lawrence. I can't be there because I have a high school football game, so somebody may well have to, bail her out. I don't know. So, just be kind. All right. I didn't really have a lot to talk to you. I mean,
I've just been sitting here the whole time.
Yeah, I know. So
I thought about moving, but I didn't want to. That would have been awkward.
We do want to bring up our first guest. We had a change in the guest lineup here. Ron Freeman was going to be here tonight. Ron Freeman had to go out of town, so we have rescheduled Ron for the podcast next week. So when you subscribe to our podcast, one thing you could do is tell all these folks how they can consume our podcast.
Yes, make sure you're subscribed on Rumble, YouTube. For the video version, drop a like, drop a comment, share the link with your friends. Audio-only version you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and then follow the page on Facebook as well.
And what I've been doing is when we get the new episode out, I've been putting full episodes up on the podcast Facebook page. So you can check that out and you can see it that way. You can share the word. Just tell people, hey, we're in this for common sense answers, We're going to lean more conservative because that's who we are. But at the end of the day, we're looking for answers to questions and solutions for problems. So when Ron could not make it, Cress and Dakota found Andy BAKKER for us. Andy is with the Liberty Alliance, and he is pinch hitting tonight. So come on up here, Andy. Andy, thanks. Appreciate you being on here. Andy has deep knowledge of everything from Kansas City to Jefferson City to Washington, D.C. We're going to do this kind of like a donut, okay? You're the outer part of the donut, so you're going to talk about Jackson County and Washington, D.C., and because we have the Speaker of the House of Representatives here, we're going to let him handle the state. That seem like a fair deal? Okay. So let's start with Jackson County. Andy, what is your take on this property assessment debacle, the red flag that came up that got a lot of us involved, that got me involved? What's your assessment of it, the mess that's been made, and your advice on the fix?
Oh, it's a disaster. And we don't have to dig into all of the details of how this thing happened, but what it really exposed was a crisis of trust in county government that needs to be addressed. People have taken now really extreme measures to fix it and get some accountability in county government, recalling the county executive, now passing the elected assessor bill, but 90-10. We're going to get Amendment 2 passed this summer. So there's a lot that needs to be looked at structurally to make sure that we're getting accountability from our legislators.
Yeah. So, you've already seen the thing that Phil Lavoda floated about credits and all that. Are we going to be able to make our voters whole without killing the other taxing entities?
Well, I certainly hope so, and there's a whole discussion that needs to be had. There's a discussion that needs to be had about the charter, too. I don't think that people realize how weird Jackson County is. Jackson County is the only county in the whole state that doesn't have an elected assessor. That'll be fixed after Amendment 2 gets passed. It's also one of the very, very few counties that does not operate on a commission system. So we've got a strong executive in this charter And that's where a lot of the problems are coming from.
Yeah, there's no checks and balances. We've talked about that. And when I asked Sean Smith, I'm like, at the city council level, we would do a charter review, right? And every council member would appoint somebody. The mayor would appoint one from each district, and we'd hash these things out and then put it on the ballot and let the voters vote. And he said, yeah, you can do a charter review, but the executive appoints everyone on the commission. Well, how the hell are we going to get checks and balances if the guy who's the problem is appointing everybody?
Yeah, that's a serious problem, and it's something that we need good people in the legislature to actually be able to address some of these, because structurally right now, you can't get there.
Yeah, and I'm one of the voices out there calling for an outside audit, because I just, I see a lot of money leaving Eastern Jackson County, going into Kansas City. It doesn't come back out to us, and I just kind of want to know where the money's going, and I want some accountability.
Absolutely. Audit is a great place to start.
Yeah. So we talked about that. We talked about the charter review, and thank you. Look at that. It's raining money. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So we talked about the charter review. We talked about checks and balances, the audit. Do you have thoughts on what to do with the Truman Sports Complex if Becky doesn't get her way and force the Royals to stay at Kauffman Stadium? And the Chiefs, too. You're going to force them to stay over your dead body? Okay. So in case she doesn't get that done, and Jackson County owns this huge, tremendous parcel of land, what are the thoughts on what we could do with that?
Well, we've got to do something with it, but really the problem, again, is trust. When the Royal Stadium came up for a vote, people of Jackson County said, no, we do not want our tax dollars to go to this. And so the same rule applies, whether it's for a stadium or whatever economic development project the vote is saying. Taxpayers need to come first, and it needs to be an open and transparent process. I think those are the most important things.
What about these AI data centers? That'd be a good place for them, wouldn't it? There's really nothing there, and the Chiefs have made the comment that nothing is developed around it in 50 years, so, why not?
I'd like to see something else there, but we'll see what the county can come up with. Hopefully there's something that can bring a little bit of economic development and competitiveness to our town.
When I think about things like this, I think about from a government perspective. I'm not a big government guy. I ask the question, what business are we in, right? Are we in the grocery store business? Do we need to fund a grocery store at 31st and Prospect, which they're doing again, by the way, at the city level? But this time it's going to be different because you're going to have to show an ID, and they're only going to be open till 8. I know. That's fine. Make all the noise you want. That is pretty funny. They got to show an ID. Don't tell the people in California that we're making them show an ID to buy groceries. It's only going to be open until 8 o'clock. What could possibly go wrong there?
Gosh.
Yeah.
We've already seen it.
Yes, we've already seen the movie, and we're about to see it again. So what business are we in? And when I think about it, if we don't have tenants at the NFL and Major League Baseball level, what business are we in? Why don't we just sell it? Get requests for proposals or whatever, or let Michael Schroer sell it. It's a big piece of land, right? Might have a restriction or two on it. Sorry. Sell it. Get it off our books.
Yeah, sounds great to me. Hopefully give the money back to the taxpayers.
There you go. We just solved that problem. Sorry, Becky, but that's our problem. The battery storage facility proposed for Sibley. Have you heard about that?
I really haven't. It's not something
It's BESS. It's an acronym for something. I got it in my book over here. But basically, they want to plunk down on farmland in Sibley, unincorporated Jackson County, so it does fall under the legislature's purview. This battery storage facility, and I went to a town hall meeting in Sibley the other night, and the horror story that they're talking about with these things, there are accidents that happen every year with them. The fires are tough to put out. There was one in California last year. It took 11 days to put the fire out. Sibley and help me out here, Fort Osage Fire District, they don't have the mechanisms to put those things out, so they would have to wait for CJC to get there to help put it out. And then they want to put it right next to the Missouri River. So if the toxic chemicals seeped into the Missouri River, guess what? The Missouri River goes down to the Mississippi, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. How many states does that affect?
Most of them.
Yeah. So you're probably anti the battery thing based on what I just told you.
Based on what you just told me, I don't know a whole lot about this, but the big issue with these data centers is the same that we face at the county level, right? It's that there is no accountability from the leadership. There is no transparency. And then when people find out about it and they bring recourse and they bring their complaints, they don't get listened to. So that's, really the issue kind of with everything in Jackson County, whether it's the battery plant in Sibley or anything else.
Yeah. And just the silly ordinances that they keep passing. And again, it's coming out of very liberal Kansas City. The masking ordinance for cops. First of all, they can't enforce it. The sheriff's against it. He's not going to enforce it. And that's really the only power Jackson County has. And they did it as a result of the ICE deal in Minneapolis and all that. Why are they masking themselves? Because liberal organizations are giving out their information, doxing.
Absolutely. That's what business are we in, right? Are we in the business of making it harder for immigration and customs enforcement, or are we in the business of serving taxpayers?
Yeah. I like to take a look at government and find out what our core competencies are, and there's probably 3, and let's just not get beyond that, right? Let's make our neighborhoods safe. Let's put the bad guys in jail who are begging to be in jail, right? Let's do the infrastructure that we need to do and let the private sector take it from there. And quite frankly, if 31st and Prospect was a great place to have a grocery store, there'd be a grocery store there.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a place where people get killed quite a bit. Yeah. All right. Well, that's the local front. And again, the donut for you is we're going to go to the national now. Okay. So the Democrats released their postmortem on 2024, Kamala's big loss. Did you see any of that?
I did.
What's your take?
Well, it's just so funny because it didn't tell us anything we don't know already, right? The Democrats lost because they did very, very poorly with men. They did very, very poorly with working class voters, right? Like, this is all common sense at this point. It was the quality of the work product that was just so terrible. It was like a 5th grader wrote this thing. And that guy who wrote it was still working at the DNC until earlier this week.
When that came out, he's like, he's going to be out of here. And I saw that they feel like they focus too much on Trump. Gee, there's a light bulb going off, right? Yeah. And they had really no strategy other than to keep doing what Joe was doing. And the wrong track, right track was way lopsided at that point. So for her to go on The View and them ask the question, what would you do differently? And she's like, I think we just keep doing what we're doing. Kiss of death right there.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So, here are my theories on Trump here, and you can jump in wherever you want to. In the first term, right, he comes in as the new president. He's a bull in a china shop. He's always been that. I've never been in love with the guy, but I believe what I believe, and I look at it from an issue perspective. And yet this guy comes in and he is battling like no one has ever battled before. They come at him with the fake dossier. They come at him with the ridiculous impeachment thing. And yet still in his first term, he gets the Abraham Accords done and sets the groundwork and the foundation for peace in the Middle East, which nobody has been able to do. You'd give him credit for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the economy was booming, and then along comes COVID. I don't think that was his fault. And that was the other crisis in the first term. So because he is who he is and COVID was going on, there's probably a fatigue effect that happens with a guy like Trump for the middle. You've got the right and you've got the left, but the big middle is what will elect a president, right?
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So there's Trump fatigue that sets in. And then, of course, the voting rules that they put in place with COVID, that basically we could gather up all the ballots in here and just take them out and hand them out, right? Paper airplanes, you get a ballot, you get a ballot, you get a ballot. Are you registered? We don't care. Just fill it out, make sure you vote Democrat. And then they wanted to codify those things, put them into law. And they did this outside the legislative process. That was my problem with it all along. And then all of a sudden, Joe Biden gets 81 million votes, where nobody's ever gotten anywhere close to that. No funny business there.
Following right now. Yeah.
Okay, so the second term comes along, all right? Trump knows there's not going to be a third term. He's his typical bull in the china shop. He's got multi-layered chess going on, and he is fixing things that we have been dealing with for decades. He starts in Venezuela. Okay, that gets the oil flowing, right? And then he goes over to Iran, and we're still kind of deadlocked with that, and I think that's going to get fixed. And now he's going after Cuba. Cuba's been a pain in our ass since the Eisenhower administration.
That's right.
And he's doing all of these things, cleaning up decades of messes while the Democrats still run against the guy who won't be running again. They talk about Trump. Trump's never going to be on a ballot again.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm doing good so far. That's good. So, redistricting. You want to talk about redistricting a little bit?
Let's do it.
All right.
We're working hard on that at Liberty Alliance.
Yeah. And obviously, Missouri has its new districts lined out, which we'll talk to the speaker about here in just a little bit. Again, this is where Trump is different. Because Trump comes in, and you've been around long enough, you've seen the typical Republicans who win at the national level. I call them the K Street crowd, right? It's like, I'm just happy to be here, not gonna rock the boat. I want to be invited to all the parties and all that good stuff. I think of people like Mitt Romney. Maybe you're too young to remember Bob Michael, who was the minority leader in the House.
I don't know.
Republicans were in the minority in the House of Representatives for 50 years. They never even made an attempt until Newt Gingrich came along. Okay, so they're just happy to be here, happy to go along, to get along and all that. And then, here comes Donald Trump. And Trump's sitting around, and he goes, is there a reason why we don't redistrict in the middle of a decade? And, the answers he probably got were, it's the way we've always done it. We just want to get along. We want to go to the parties. Trump's like, F that. Let's get it done. Right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And the Democrats are losing their minds.
They are. This has been a different approach, and I think it's very welcome. We needed somebody who would fight, right? And so to take this to the states and get it done, the Democrats, in states where they've redistricted, they didn't have this problem. They didn't have Democrats saying, well, it's the way things have always been, that we wait every 10 years. We couldn't do that. It would just destroy relations in the chamber. Republicans do. We got beat by that kind of attitude in Indiana and in some others. Now we've got to figure out what's going on in the South, but it might happen again. It's not something that Democrats need to worry about. And it's something that I think as Missourians, we should be very proud of, that we got this done for the president and fought for him, and we're still fighting.
Yeah. And what they're saying on the other side is, can you believe Donald Trump is controlling the Republican Party? I mean, my God, he's the president.
He's the sitting president of the United States.
The president is the titular head of whatever party it is. Hell, Barack Obama still thinks he's running the Democrat Party.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So, I'm all for getting this done in order to win. And the cynical thing about the Democrats is they did all this redistricting before, and then they said, you know what? We want to pass a law that says no more redistricting, because they did it all. I lived in Connecticut 31 years ago. My congressman in Connecticut 31 years ago was Gary Franks. You know that name?
I don't.
A black Republican in a majority white district.
Okay.
So it happens. It happened. Right. And now what the Supreme Court has done, which I'm thrilled about, is they've added the other side of the equation. If you think about it this way, for decades, the Supreme Court said you can't gerrymander a district to disenfranchise minorities. Okay? But now they've done the other side of the equation. Now they're saying you can't gerrymander to benefit minorities. You can't have districts like the Illinois 13th where they come over and they get enough African Americans in East St. Louis and they snake that thing all the way over to almost the Indiana border, and they call that a district. Right? That's what they've thrown out. And to your point, that's why the South is going to jump back in there again and redistrict.
That's right. We actually might have a chance here in Missouri, too. I don't know if that's something the Democrats realize, that if they pass their referendum to roll back the map, all of a sudden with this Supreme Court case, we could go to 8-0 instead of 7-1.
Yeah. So be careful what you wish for, I suppose. And you've seen the news coverage on all this. What is the term that the Democrats are using to put us back in our box?
It's always gerrymandering.
It's racist.
Racist. Okay.
It's racist.
That one too.
Yeah. So we have on the podcast, we have the Democrat playbook. And some of you who are longtime podcast fans are going to know this by heart. But essentially, when you ask a Democrat any question, and they've already sent AOC out, they've sent Crazy Eyes Cory Booker out. He gets the big eyes going, and he's like, they're racist, because in the past, Democrats have used that as a crucifix against Republicans. It's like, I'm going to call you racist, and you're going to go, oh no, don't call me racist. Don't call me racist. And we go back into our corner. We don't buy that anymore, right? We don't buy it because it's not true. But it's always been play number one in the Democrat playbook. It's racist. Play number two is somebody has something you don't have, and that's not fair. Right?
Usually because of racism.
Probably so. It all ties together. Play number three for the Democrat playbook is global warming / climate change. All right? One of these five is the answer to any question you ask a Democrat. Trust me on that. Play number four, it's Trump's fault. And you also throw January 6th into that, because that's one of their weapons too. Anytime they have a bad act on the left, they'll come at you and say, oh yeah, January 6th. We can't let that be a crucifix either, okay? That was 4 hours of a bad look for Republicans. What they've done is years of burning down cities and killing people. Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump, 3 assassination attempts now. So we don't let them get away with that anymore. Play number 5, nothing to see here. They used that a lot during the Biden years. He's the most fit person. He runs circles around everybody in the West Wing. We just don't know why he's walking that way. But it's okay. Nothing to see here. And we've recently added a 6th play to the playbook. Epstein. Yeah, when everything else fails, just yell out, Epstein.
That's right.
Epstein. So what do you think? That's my playbook.
It didn't work for Thomas Massey this week.
It did not. Okay, bold prediction time for you, Andy. What does the midterm look like?
The midterm is going to look better than people think. And we're going to keep the map. How about that?
Okay, we'll take that. And what does the back half of the Trump presidency look like?
Hopefully win after win.
Here we are ready for Mallory.
Will he run for a 3rd term?
I wish he would, but that seems like a job for lawyers.
Yeah, not going to happen. And finally, will doctors ever find a cure for TDS?
Not likely.
Probably not. Andy Bakker, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for him. And he did all of this pinch hitting tonight, so thank you so much. I appreciate you. Good job. All right, set change. He didn't leave, did he? Where is he? He's still back there. All right. Come on down, sir. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Speaker of the Missouri House of Representatives representing Lee's Summit, but a graduate of Blue Springs High School, John Patterson.
There we go. 1998. Anybody else? 1998?
Dr. John Patterson, I should amend to say. So what is your secret? Everybody likes you.
Connie Searpoy gave me the best advice in politics, which is you have to show up and don't be a jerk. So.
Well, I show up. That's half the equation. I'll work on the other half. So family chat, and by way of full disclosure, John's parents live right down the street from me. He grew up in the neighborhood that I live in. Mm-hmm. Your mom puts lots of miles on walking the dogs twice a day. I think she is the strongest walker in Deer Run.
Yes. She walks those dogs and doesn't miss a day.
Yeah. And your dad, Joe, we walk our dogs once in a while. I don't walk them nearly as much as your mom does, but we get out there whenever we can. And I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about when you told him you made the decision to get into politics.
Oh, yeah.
Because, here you are. You're the perfect son. You're a surgeon.
Yeah.
And you go to your dad and you say, Dad, I think I want to be in politics.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
My dad does not like politicians, so he's smart. And so it might have been disappointing for him to hear that. But I just, like you, kind of had that itch and decided to do it. And it's been, I think it's been good. And hopefully being Speaker of the House, he's okay with it now.
Yeah, okay. I know he's very proud of you. He talks about you every time I see him, so that's good. You're termed out of the House, though.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so now you have made the decision to run for the state Senate. What can you do there?
Well, I'd like to continue the work that I started in the House, with term limits. A lot of us get there, and it takes 4 or 5 years just to learn how to do everything, and then by the time you're effective, you are term limited out. And so I think continuing service, I think I kind of know how things work and would really like to just continue the work that we've done, especially on property taxes. We did not pass a significant property tax bill this year, and I'd like to go back and continue to help on that aspect of life because it is still a major issue for people in Jackson County. And I was talking with a business owner today who owns a property out in Grandview, and that tenant employs 500 people, and the property taxes have skyrocketed, and that tenant can't, it's a triple net lease, and the tenant can't afford the rent anymore and the taxes, so that tenant is going to move to Mexico, and the 500 employees there are going to be out of a job. I mean, it's serious stuff, and we've got to get a hold of it. And so I'd really like to continue my work there, especially on property taxes.
Well, we're going to talk about property taxes. We can talk about property taxes now because I guess my question would be, and I know that it's a red alert thing in Jackson County, but every county is different. And how do you craft something at the state level that takes into account what we deal with in Jackson County and then smaller counties where it might hurt their school district, fire district, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, I would do what we have done, which is let the counties decide. So if anybody here is from Cass County, they recently voted to freeze their property taxes, and they were able to do that, but Jackson County wasn't included in that legislation. So when you voted in April, you did not get to vote for a tax freeze. And so I think you can have legislation that allows counties to decide and let the people decide, and that's a good way to go about doing it.
What would the state level, what would the state involvement be, though, if each county was going to do their own thing?
Well, the state just allows the counties to decide what they're doing. So the Senate Bill 3 that was passed, a lot of the counties signed on to it, so Cass County was one of them, and they went, and by 80%, they voted to freeze their property taxes.
Okay. Where are we on income taxes? That's another big thing you're working on.
So that was passed by the legislature, and so this August or November, we are all going to get to go to the polls and decide whether we want to eliminate our income tax. And so for those of you that have heard of it, basically what it would do is at the state level, we would lower and eliminate the income tax, and then when the local Jackson County gets more sales tax revenue, we would mandate that they lower property taxes. So you would have in the Constitution that you would have to lower people's property taxes with an expanded sales tax base.
Okay. So we still got to pay our bills, though.
We do.
Sales taxes would necessarily have to go up?
You'd have to see more of the things that we don't sales tax now, so that would probably be a part of it. And you might have to see an increase in rates, but not the levels that people are talking about.
Yeah.
You've heard a lot of scare tactics, but people have brought up all these billionaires that come to Missouri. They sell things to people. They don't have to pay sales tax. All this AI stuff that's sales tax free. I think a lot of that should be sales taxed, and with the money that you generate, let's lower income taxes and let's lower property taxes.
One of the ways I've heard it put is there are 3 million of us paying income taxes, and there are 40 million people who come through Missouri.
Right. So there's a lot of visitors that come through, and they buy products and go through Missouri. That's great. Imagine having your property taxes lowered by visitors to Missouri. I think it's a better way to do things. Let people keep the money that they earn. We talk about the cost of living these days. Keep whatever's in your paycheck and then go out and decide what you want to spend it on.
So voters will have that choice in November?
In either August or November, the governor decides when that goes on. So
okay, cool.
We'll just all go to the polls and say, do we want to do this or do we not want to do it?
We would become, by what I looked up today, the 10th state to eliminate the income tax?
I think we might become the 11th because South Carolina, another state that's doing great, just voted to phase out their income tax.
Yeah.
So the states that are doing really well, they're getting rid of income tax. The states that are not doing well, the Californias, Washington, New York, they're raising taxes on people.
I have seen documentation that states like California and Washington and New York are losing businesses to states like Tennessee and Texas because of their ridiculous, taxation, regulation, everything.
Yeah, Washington State just instituted a tax on millionaires. So it's always the quote-unquote rich people until they come for you. And that is the best jobs plan that you could have for Tennessee, because a lot of those people are moving to Tennessee, they're moving to Florida, they're moving to these low-tax states, and they're losing population. California's going to lose probably 4 congressional districts, and you have to lose a lot of population to lose 4 congressional districts, but people are just moving out, and you can see the states where they're going to.
That's why they're attracting illegals.
Well, I don't know about that, but
them to vote.
you do know that people are moving out of California to a lot of other states.
No question. Now, I know that you've spent some time in Tennessee, Nashville in particular. I spent a lot of time in Nashville because of my real job. Nashville is booming. You know, they're building a new football stadium. They're going to get the Super Bowl in 2030. And every time I go to Nashville, there's like another big building that's been built. So these states that are doing well, that don't have state income tax, let's say Tennessee, Florida, Texas, what are they doing right, and what can we learn from that?
Well, you know, in 2023, 50 million people moved from California to Tennessee, and half of those were young people, the kind of young people that go out, spend money, have kids that go into public schools. And so you're right, they do things, and one of the things is taxes. When people these days can work from home, they can work from anywhere. One of the things they look is taxation. So, and in Tennessee, you don't not pay taxes. They have sales tax, they have taxes on LLCs, they have excise taxes, franchise taxes. But so no one gets out of paying taxes. It's just, do you want to keep your own paycheck and decide how you want to spend it? I think ultimately that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, because Florida, everybody points to the fact that there's tourism and a lot of tourism dollars coming that way. But when I look at a state like Tennessee, they really don't have anything more than what we have, I don't think, right?
Yep. And 20 years ago, we had the same population. They're growing at a much faster rate than we are. And then, I know so many people that moved to Florida. In fact, I was talking with one of the people that was here, and he lives in Florida. And why does he do that? Of course, taxes. I know a person that lives in Florida, and he doesn't want to be there. He says it's hot, 9 months of the year, and it's all much older people than him. But he does it.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to look out there. But I would love it if he could live in Missouri and not try to escape Missouri for taxes. And what would he do when he lives here? He would spend money, he would go out, he would do all those things. So again, I just think it's a better way to do things. But nobody is saying we're going to get out of taxes.
Yeah. So, do we have a revenue problem or a spending problem?
Well, in Missouri, our spending is, we're lucky in that we have to have a balanced budget. And so as we go forward in the legislature, people like Jeff Coleman, he's a budget hawk. We can only spend the money that we have. We're not like Washington, D.C., where they have a credit card. So we can only spend what we have, and going forward, you'll probably see a lot less spending because there's just not as much money coming in. But this year, I'm proud to say that in our budget, we cut $4 billion worth of spending.
That sounds good.
And we probably need to do that again next year.
All right. Now answer this for me. Is Coleman a current legislator or is he a former legislator?
He is a current legislator until next January. And we're lucky to have him because he's a budget hawk. He's a very conservative legislator, probably the most conservative in the Missouri House, and he's a good friend.
I think he endorsed me. Did you endorse me?
I did. There you go.
He's rethinking it. Okay, so what else from the session that you just went through would you like to highlight?
Well, I'll highlight a few things, but one of the things that you talked about earlier was this using race to divide up our congressional districts. And I just want to touch on that because I think in 2026, we're beyond that. And I'll tell you, a decade ago, I ran for state representative, and I represent District 30, which is Lee Summit, and it is 92% white. And I ran. Do you know how many people asked me about my race or made it an issue? 0. Not only that, I ran against a black woman, Raina Park Shaw, who's now on the Kansas City Council, and she was a black woman. And do you know how many people asked about that? None. And that was a decade ago. I just think I agree
beyond
with you.
That?
We're just beyond that. We should do our congressional districts for compactness. We want them to be representative of the people. But to use race to do that, I'm so glad that the Supreme Court decided what they did. And I've represented a 92% white district in Jefferson City for 8 years. The race has never been an issue, not a single time.
Yeah.
that's
my bigger worry is all these people from California and Washington and New York moving to these places, and because how screwed up their area is, and they come here and they still vote Democrat. What's up with that?
Yeah, I think you see that in places like Georgia. It's had a lot of growth, but then it's kind of a purplish state because they bring their voting habits with them. So I want people from California, Washington, New York to move to Missouri, but kind of see Missouri values and
assimilate to the culture.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll teach them. So what else from the session you want to highlight?
Well, I think we had a really good session. It was very productive. I think you guys have heard in the past that the gridlock, there's a lot of personalities at play, and I think this year we just got a lot of work done. And I'll tell you a couple of the things that you probably haven't heard about, but I think are really important. So one of the bills that we passed, and this was on the news a little bit, but how many of you guys have kids or grandkids? We all do. And if they went to the gas station and wanted to buy a pornographic magazine, they would have to show ID, correct? But you can go online and see whatever you want and poison the minds of these young people, and it's just there. And so we passed a law that they have in a lot of other states that says, hey, if you want to look at that stuff, that's great, but the people that have those websites, they just have to verify that you're 18 years old, just like they would if you were at a gas station. So I think Kansas has that in place. Missouri now has that in place. And I think it's so important because we talk about sex trafficking and child abuse, and I think online pornography really plays a part in that. And so that these kids will have some protections, I think is good. I'm really proud of the work that we did on that. And I don't think it really got enough coverage. It was on the news for one night. And then I know that there's a lot of small business owners in here. Let me ask you this. Has any small business owner been sued by one of these lawyers that goes around and checks your website and says, that's not ADA compliant, we're going to sue you? Well, good. You guys are lucky because we have attorneys going around checking your business website and saying that's not ADA compliant, we're going to sue, and it costs about $15,000 to $20,000 just to defend it in court. And so we said you can't do that. You have 90 days to fix it, and if there are these bad actor lawyers out there just stirring up trouble and getting business for themselves, that they can be investigated by the Attorney General. So just small things like that helps families, it helps kids. It protects kids, protects businesses.
Yeah.
We were able to get a lot of things done like that. No big home runs, I'd say, but just kind of common sense legislation.
Okay, that's what we're looking for, common sense legislation. The scammers are out there. They're everywhere. I don't know if you saw, I put this up on Facebook. Last week, I got a call, and it said restricted phone number. And these days, I don't know if a restricted number could be you calling. I don't know. Do you have a restricted number? Maybe. So I get this call, and it's a guy, and he says he's from the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, which I find very interesting given what I'm running for. And he said, you missed a subpoena for a federal grand jury. We subpoenaed you, and we sent a registered mail to your house, and he gave my address, and he said somebody signed for it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know that happened, but let's say that it did. How do we fix this? Well, you need to come to this address, and we need you to verify your signature on several things. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's interesting because I'm running for the Jackson County Legislature, and my next call is going to be to the sheriff. He hung up.
Yeah.
So, and then I called the sheriff's department. They said, oh, yeah, that's the big scam going around. Tell everybody if you get that is a complete scam. And I guess they bilk people out of money somehow.
Yeah, I can see that. And, one of the biggest scams I see these days are the Facebook. They take over your Facebook, and then they say, my uncle died, and he's selling all of his possessions, and they've gotten money that way because they say, I'm selling his car for $5,000. And so there's a lot of fraud out there. I wish we could do something about that. I'm not sure there's a law that we can pass for that kind of fraud.
Yeah.
But we certainly can for the restricted phone numbers.
I do enjoy playing with them sometimes. Jen and I were in Florida, and we got a call from a guy with a really ridiculous accent, and he told me that I'd won like $5 million in a new Mercedes.
Yeah.
And he's just really excited, and I'm just going along with it. Oh, yeah, please tell me more. And at some point, I get tired of it, and I hang up.
Yeah.
So moving forward here, I'm running for Jackson County Legislature.
Yes.
Have you heard that?
Sir. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Any advice for me other than show up and don't be a jerk?
Yeah, I think you're doing great. I think people like to talk about ideas. I mean,
Yeah.
You're used to that being with your job, and I think you have been out in the community and told people what you want to see Jackson County and what you want for Jackson County. And I think it's a vision that a lot of people will respond to, and I think you got a great chance. And I think having people like you and the other people that you talked about is going to be good for Jackson County.
Well, you're a smart guy, and I want to stay close and take any advice that you want to give me.
All right, yeah, and we can help each other, and good luck, and thanks to everybody out here that's supporting Dale.
John Patterson, Speaker of the House. Give him a big round of applause here. Pizza was good. Everybody's good. Everybody's full. All right, we're going to get out. We're going to hit the campaign trail.
Okay.
All right, and I've seen several things I'm going to be at. You're going to be there as well.
Yep.
So we'll see you on the campaign trail.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
And that's it. That's a wrap. Until next week. Ron Freeman is on next week, I promise you. This is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to dalecartersamerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.